When the family members came to visit her in one of the hospitals in California, most of them shed tears due to her condition. She always screamed due to the pain she was in undergoing and caught the attention of many of her family members as they pitied her. Was it worthy for Angeline to go through such an immense pain due to her cancer, which would finally kill her? Assisted suicide is one of the most discussed ethical issues we have today, dating its origin 2,400 years ago. Many people have different perspectives towards the assisted end over the years with supporting it, while others are strongly opposing it due to religious beliefs. This is due to the numerous advantages and disadvantages to the person seeking it and positive impacts to the family members while being unlawful towards God among many Christians and among many others. Today I'm going to discuss assisted suicide in depth, starting with its history and different terms it associates. The issue is one of the critical issues which need to be addressed within the United States of America. Assisted suicide is the process of ending one's life either with or without his or her consent to end sufferings of a patient. It is also referred to as euthanasia and dates its origin before the birth of Christ. According to the Hippocratic Health, which was written in 4th century, states, I quote, "I will not give a lethal drug to anyone if I am asked, nor will I advise such a plan." End quote. This oath was supposed to be taken by all the doctors before entering the career as Lester. 2020 emphasizes. Nowadays, most doctors do not take the oath, or they take an altered oath, which is one way or the other to support euthanasia. Is it right to end one's life with or without his or her consent to end pain and sufferings? Such a question has been the point of discussion, leading to many countries, including some states in the United States, allowing euthanasia. The different forms of euthanasia include voluntary and non-voluntary according to the observed considerations before it's done. According to Borasio, Jacques, and Gomandi, voluntary assisted suicide is conducted when the involved person has consented and it is legal in some states of the United States of America, such as Washington, Oregon, and California. Non-voluntary euthanasia is conducted without the consent of the involved person due to the health condition. The close family members act on behalf of the patient on authorizing the assisted suicide through the health workers. Non-voluntary euthanasia is done considering the suffering the patient is going through and the quality of life that the patient has left. Assisted suicide can also be classified as either passive or active based on the procedures followed to end one's life. Passive euthanasia withholds the treatment of the patient, and in many cases, the doctors prescribe increased doses to the patient, which result in toxic effect leading to one's death. Strong painkillers such as opiates may be applied, and some people consider this as passive euthanasia. The definition of this form of taking one's life is, however, considered by some people as not assisted suicide, as taking one's life is not intended and medical treatment is offered. Active suicide includes the use of lethal substances which force the end of one's life and has raised compassionate, ethical, and moral arguments to the society. Based on the religious aspects, assisted suicide is not supported as all and one's life is considered to be taken by God Himself and not anybody else. In the biblical perspective, it is written in the Ten Commandments, "Thou shalt not kill," which means by any means taking one's life is against God's will and not accepted by the Christians. Hindus and Buddhism consider hasting life a condemnation which will increase suffering after death, as Messiah explains. They believe that there is life after death which has sufferings according to one's actions. Taking one's life, either with consent or without consent, has negative impacts on life. Assisted suicide has been opposed greatly by different religions all over the world. Still, due to the political influence, assisted suicide has been allowed due to its benefits to the involved person. Instead of suffering too much due to pain, some of the country's legislators have allowed euthanasia. Euthanasia in countries like United States has been a very active argument since long time ago, dating back to the 1800s. According to Lester, the first law on euthanasia was passed in New York State and in United States, which led to other states to start formulating laws on assisted suicide. The Supreme Court empowered the states to have their constitutional right to make decisions on allowing assisted suicide. In this stage, which have not yet allowed assisted suicide, people who assist others to end their lives end up being prosecuted. The benefits and the disadvantages of the same issue affect different states to either allow or discourage assisted suicide. The most important ethical issue to consider is whether assisted suicide will lead to the better and desired death of the Americans who die every year. Configuration of the negative impacts and the negative ones over the issue should be the major issue of discussion in different states. One of the major benefits of assisted suicide is the end of suffrage to the person involved. However, in this issue, psychological suffering should not be considered as the act of killing someone due to the psychological problems is murder, as Borrachio, Jacques, and Gamandi indicates. Allowing somebody to make their own decisions on whether to end based on their suffering conditions is a way of allowing autonomy over one's life. According to the American Civil Liberties Union, discouraging assisted suicide interferes with liberty interests of the individual. In the cases of terminal illness, giving people an option to choose on how to die and when gives dignity to death and full control of their life and determines how their loved ones will remember the one's lives. The financial burden is another issue which many opt to die to ensure those left behind will not be overburdened on catering for the hospital's bills. The request for death by any individual in these circumstances should be considered. In general, a state needs to view the benefits and the issues raised by some people against assisted suicide. Based on the benefits of the act, which include reduction of suffering and liberty over one's life, then it will be argued in support of assisted suicide. Can doctors use their power wrongly allowed to end life? The question has been considered by many people who oppose the move to legalize assisted suicide. Religious concerns also argue that ending one's life is against the will of God, especially the Catholics. The states of America should abandon, based on such issues, the legalization of assisted suicide. A debate over the issue, with the majority's view being considered, appears to be the better way of solving this problem, which has to be there for a long time. Thank you for listening.